here's the top round. I'm going to run through it with the other one. On a leaner beef, this whole process is a little bit easier, but this one will be worth the wait because it's a nice beef. Here's that oyster coming off again and all the stuff around it. Follow your knife around there. Hopefully this comes off pretty clean so you can just throw it in the barrel when it's done. I have a nice top round or a couple of them to make into steaks. Yeah, or like Diane does. It makes this cut makes a real nice bunch of jerky. You just cut it thin. It's just an ideal cut for that. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to cut a London broil off each one of those to make up for that. What was it, a flank steak, I think? And then we'll cut some top round steaks. This is the tenderest part of the round. It's doesn't have as many seams in it as the bottom round does. It's another name for it is the inside round because it's the inside. It's like the thigh of the beef. It's a real lean cut. Kind of harder to. Something you want to kind of cook rare if you're going to cook it because it's kind of hurts for flavor if you cook it a long time. It's the opposite of what you normally do with a tougher cut. So anyway, here's what they call a London broil. London broil is actually more of a recipe than it is a cut, but it's over the years it's become, out here on the West Coast, we usually cut them out of a top round. When I got in the meat business, there were all sorts of different cuts that went by the term London broil, but it's kind of narrowed down to top rounds and sirloin tips. That's usually what they use in the stores. Okay, so that takes care of the equalizing the flank steaks. Now we're going to make steaks out of this. I don't cut these very thick. Like I said, I usually cut these on a saw with a knife blade. I think what I want to end up with, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I cut 6 of them from each side, it'll work out. When I slice these by hand, I don't really go all the way to the bottom. I like to keep it as one unit and then come back and finish cutting it because it just works out better that way. It's basically cut all the way through. It just kind of held together at the bottom. These should be pretty much ready to go. Diane, do you need some more plastic over there? I'll go over there and cut some of that in a second. We can film that little part too. These are steaks that really look pretty in a meat counter. They're it's one more of those things that's deceptive in life. You see something that's real pretty. Quite often that's not the best piece of meat in the county. But it's good if you cook it right. So anyway, we're going to wrap these, and I'll show you a little trick here that saves paper and plastic. We're all pretty low tech here, but we've got a few tricks. We've got a few different size boards that we use to measure the plastic and the paper with, and we just kind of cut it off in sections. And usually I'm counting so I don't come out with an extra half strip, but I didn't this time because I'm talking. So I'm probably going to come out wrong. I lucked out. Here you go. Diane's got plastic to wrap her top rounds. And I'll move on to the bottom rounds. Okay, let's see what we have here. And let's see. Here we've got they call the outside round. It's the outside of the back leg, or the bottom round. And it's got a couple of different things going on with it. It's got an eye of the round off to one side, which I think we'll just call a rump roast. That comes off this side. It's another one of those cuts that's a good cut, but it's one you got to be careful with. It's just you got to either cook it a really long time or a relatively short time and serve it rare, because it's can be kind of dry and tough if you're not careful with it. It's kind of like cooking octopus tentacles. You either want to cook it in 5 minutes or 2 hours and 45 minutes. Either really rare or really well done. But we're just going to call this a rump roast when we're through, and it'll get treated the same way a rump would. The other part of this bottom round here that's different than the rest is the heel section, which is almost part of the shank, and I just take that off because it really doesn't work well as a roast. The old timers used to make what they called a Pikes Peak roast out of this. That takes some long cooking, because there's a muscle here in the middle of this heel that's just really strong. It's just tough as can be. It's kind of an iron muscle. It's a fabulous cut for soup because you can cook that for 6 hours and it'll be tender, but it's still got texture to it. Anyway, that's the heel of the round there. That's going to go in ground beef. It's where it does its best work. You could put it in into a stew, but it doesn't have the right texture for me. And here is the rest of the bottom round, which we're going to call rump roast. There's other things you can do with this. You can run it through the tenderizer and, make steaks and run them through the tenderizer. And here's one of the things where I definitely want to get rid of that, what they call silver skin. That's this part on the side here, because it's pretty tough on the round. So let's see, what can I do here? Can I make 3 small roasts and then?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tie these because I really don't need it. They've got plenty of hold together stuff on their own.